Hey there, I'm Tony from Marathon Mates. In this episode, we have our great marathon mate, Kim Tudjman, joining us to tell us all about the World Age Championships and how she got invited to run in the Chicago Marathon. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the flying runner, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to The Flying Runner. This week, we have our very special guest, our marathon mate, Kim Tudjman, joining us, and she's going to talk about her running journey, which ultimately saw her get invited to compete in the World Age Group Championships at the recent Chicago Marathons. Welcome, Kim, and thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Now, we're really looking forward to speaking with you a little later on, and we will very shortly. But first, we like to have a bit of a chat about what's going on. So there's my friends, Team Ellis, Tim and Tara. How are you both? And what did you get up to on the weekend?
So this weekend we did Gatton Park Run. One of my friends, Juanita, our friends, Juanita, she was doing her 250th park run, so we went out to Gatton to do that with her. It was lovely. It's a 2.5 loop course.
Yeah.
It's got some hills in it, so it's quite challenging. There's also signs that say beware of snakes near the lake, so we're always as we're going past there. We did our long run out at Shorncliffe, so it was storming here in Brisbane on Sunday morning. And we woke up at about 4 o'clock and we're like, do we go out? Do we not go out? Managed to time it in between storms and rain. So did that. And Tim did really well. He did 21 Ks. I got to about probably 8 Ks and I'm just like, I'm walking.
Well, that's a nice little segue, Tara, because I went out for a walk thinking my ankle was okay on Saturday, and I think I got about 2 Ks done. And I'm thinking, I went to the physio last week. He gave me some exercises. It loosened it up, but it's all tight and ugly again now. So chances are I may be getting a scan done on it, and I'm thinking 4 weeks too late, maybe. But anyway, but it was interesting. Dolph was telling me that you could have chipped the bone, or there might be a stress fracture. But either way, it's going to be a full 6 weeks. So whether you're in a moon boot or not, it's going to take you 6 weeks. So I thought, well, okay, that brings me up to my birthday around the November 20. And if I can be running by then, I'll be pretty happy. So we'll see how we go, hey?
Fingers crossed for you, Tony.
Just take it easy with that ankle, but it will be a bit puffy and swollen for some time, and it will just keep sort of being there all the time. But I guess we just did the other stuff. We just did the treadmill runs during the week. We did a bit of fast stuff, a little bit of slow stuff. So we're getting back into the routine of it. We've already knocked over, quite a few kilometers already for November, and it's still early in the month, and life's pretty good. We're back to normal. It's just the heat, I guess. But anyway, we'll deal with that another time.
You might be back to normal. I gave up at 8 Ks and just I'm walking the rest. So it was 10 Ks of walking and 8 Ks of running. It was very boring.
You got to know your body, Tara, as you keep saying. So it wasn't the day, and that's all good. Hey, little bit of news, so let's go to our news segment. Now, of course, the final major marathon of the year, the New York City Marathon, was run and won on Sunday. Very, very interesting race, but on both sides, I guess, of the men's and females elite. Just before I turn it over to Tim to see what he thought of the race and share some of those elite results, I found it interesting that I always get this real fear of missing out when you're seeing the majors and you're seeing all the people over there and going through things. But it's very interesting that they ran out of participant shirts on day one of the expo, and apparently there was a sizing error or an ordering error. And so if you're an extra small, you're in luck. But just about every other size, they're going to send it out to you, which a little bit disappointing, no doubt, to many of the participants. So, Tim, what did you think of the race?
Well, that's sorry, just before I get to that, that's better than what happened in Tokyo this year, where they sold out of all the shirts within the first couple of hours on day one and then didn't bother restocking them or sending them on to anyone. So at least they're sending them on. But the race itself was quite interesting. I haven't seen the entire race. I've only seen sort of highlights clips. In the men's, it was a new course record. So a quick run for the men. It was 2:04.58 for the winner. Here we go. I get the hard names.
As long as it's not me, I don't care.
Tamirat Tola, we'll call him that, who came in first place, 2:04.58. Albert Kora from Kenya. So Tamirat Tola is from Ethiopia. Kora came in second place at 2:06.57, so 2 minutes behind the leader. And then in third place was another Ethiopian, Shura Kitata, who ran in 2:07.11. So I'm not sure what happened there over the last few kilometres, but it looks like Tamirat took off over the last little bit and was able to get a good lead.
It was interesting because unlike you, I've watched the whole race. So I found time in the day today. But Tola really took off over the Queensborough Bridge, and he really gapped the person that was running in second at that time was also an Ethiopian, Jamal Yima, and he just took off. He sort of offered Yema to take the front for a while and share the load, but when he didn't, he just said, no, that's it, I'm doing this by myself, and off he went. So by the time he hit First Avenue, he probably put 50 meters on him, and then Yema held on until I think he got to the Bronx, but Tola was pretty much running by himself. And the interesting thing was the commentators were expecting Yema to be in second, but he ultimately faded that badly that he came ninth, and he was something like 7 minutes off Tola. So just another one of those people that put it all in for that first half, because he was right there, and then just ultimately fell away. So
So it is interesting how that went. In the women's, it was a close one. I think looking at the results, there's 10 seconds between first and third place. So it looks like it was a sprint finish there. Helen Obiri from Kenya won the event in 2 hours, 23 seconds. Letetsene Bet Gidey, so Gidey from Ethiopia came second, and she was only 6 seconds behind Obiri. And then Lakidi from Kenya came third. As I said, 10 seconds after the leader. So it looked like a bit of a sprint finish there.
Yeah, complete contrast to the men's race where it was just Tola out in front for much of the second half of the marathon. The girls were in a really tight pack, and there could have been 7 or 10 as they were coming across Queensborough Bridge. It ended up to those final 3. And just an amazing race. But Obiri's got a really strange style, I found. But when she put the pedal to the floor, the other girls just couldn't go with her. So very, very contrasting races. Very slow pace. The men were on track for course record pretty much the whole way through. The ladies were very much, because of the larger pack, it was like a training run there. So it was interesting. Yeah,
the times are a bit slow, I thought, for the women. I know we can say 2:11's the world record set on a flat course in Berlin, but 2:27 is the same time that, remember last week when I went through the history of the New York Marathon and I said Greta Waits won it in 1980 something, early 1980s, and she set a new world record of 2 hours 27. So that's the same sort of time that was run 30 odd years ago, almost 40 years ago. So it appears like it was a slow time. And if they're running in the pack and in amongst all the crowd of other runners, then maybe that's something the organisers need to look at. Don't they normally let the women go off first in New York, and then the men
they did
go through half an hour later?
Yeah, they did, and it was it was the first. There was only I'm not sure of the exact time, but there wasn't much time between the ladies finishing or the winner of the ladies and the winner of the men's. So they were actually commentating during the race that, as Toller was getting quicker and obviously on course record pace, he was potentially going to get into a situation where they had men's and ladies finishing at the same time. It was only a minute or two difference. So they had the men on one side of the finish line, and they set the ladies on the other side just in case that was going to happen. So,
and then in the wheelies division, Marcel Hogg of Switzerland won it in a 1 hour 25 ahead of Daniel Romanacek, who seems to win all these events. It's either Hogg or Romanacek that win these wheelchair events for the men's.
Yeah.
And then in the women's, it was have we got the women's?
Catherine de Bruyne.
Came first in the women's division. So I guess noted there for Australia, Madison De Rosio came 7th in the women's wheelchair division as well. So we always like seeing Maddie do well. We've met her a few times, and she's always got that smile.
Yeah, very much so. I don't know who's going to catch this Marcel Hugh. I think that's the way you pronounce his name, Hugh, because I think he's won all 6 majors this year. So that's phenomenal.
And before him, it was Daniel Romanchuk who was winning most of them as well.
Yeah, and once again, really interesting during that race, Hugh actually, because what was the second guy's name? Romanchuk?
Yeah, Romanchuk.
He was in Hugh's slipstream, and Marcel sort of used his hands to say, "It's your turn, go to the front,"
and he wouldn't do it.
And he wouldn't do it. So the next camera shot showed Hugh had put like 100 meters on him. So I think he was quite annoyed, maybe that he wasn't going to, the other guy wasn't going to do his fair share. So
Alrighty. What else we got on the list there? So we're going to talk about Athens Marathon.
Yeah.
So what have we got here? We've brought in here that the classic marathon, the Authentic, is an annual marathon race held in Athens, Greece every year. And they call it the Authentic because it is trying to replace or retrace the steps of the original marathon. So for those that are probably not aware, I think most marathoners are aware that the marathon came about from about a couple of thousand years ago. It was a battle between the Spartans and the Greeks, I believe, at the time, and the Greeks won it. So they sent a messenger from the battlefield in Marathon back to Athens, and his name was Philippides, and he ran all the way back to Athens, announced that they won, and then promptly died on the spot. This course tries to replicate that run as best as possible without everyone dying at the end of it. and basically, no one really knows the route that Philippides took during that original marathon run that he took, and nobody really knows if it was even 42.1095 kilometers. But they try to make it as close as possible. They have people dressed up as Spartan and Greek guards. And they finish in the ancient Olympic Stadium, the traditional stadium, the marble stadium in Athens, where they light the Olympic torch. So they've just had this one recently. It's the second Sunday in November.
It's this Sunday. This weekend.
Yeah. So it attracted it will attract 43,000 competitors. So that's how popular this event is. And Oh, sorry, that's for the whole weekend of races. I should really read the notes before we do it. 16,000 were actually running the marathon. The remaining were doing the other events. So it's still a big time event. 16,000 is bigger than what we got in Sydney this year.
Yeah.
Well, it's about on par. So yeah, it's a pretty good one. Generally, the Greek runners do really well. They can get some Kenyans and international runners, but just one of those bucket list events, I think, Tony, that you want to go to and tick it off to say you've run the original, authentic marathon.
Yeah. So Tara, I've got to ask: is Athens one of your bucket lists?
Absolutely. It's. I think it would be a really, really good one to do. Look, I don't want to die at the end, obviously, but it's definitely one of my. It's definitely on my bucket list. I've got to finish my 6 stars first, and then I'm debating on that one or maybe Medoc or something.
Or Patagonia.
Oh, there's so many. But yeah,
there's so many to choose.
Yeah.
So Kim, what about yourself? Is Athens on your list of events to do, or?
Yes, I pretty much would like to do Athens. I would. I teach this. I feel like I need to correct you a bit there, Tim.
There you go.
The Battle of Marathon actually took part between the Athenians and the Persians.
Not the Spartans, sorry.
The Spartans were actually coming to their aid.
There you go.
But they were too busy having a celebration at home, so they didn't come for a few days.
It was a while since I learned about it back in
I just started at school.
So
fresh
Tim,
for me.
if ever you're on one of those shows where you can phone a friend, you know who to phone. So.
That'll be Kim.
Tim's the one. So
the history teacher.
That's it. And then I guess the other news this week, Tony, is Kelvin Kipton, the world record holder in the men's marathon, has made a big announcement in the last couple of days. He's come out and announced that he will be running Rotterdam Marathon next April. So that basically means that he's foregoing the big prize money opportunities in London to go and run a somewhat lesser event, because London's run in April and Boston's run in April. So he's foregoing those big money events to go for a flat course in Rotterdam. Maybe, and I guess this is what he's looking to do, is to go and break the 2 hours there in Rotterdam on a flat course and then get the big sponsorship dollars and be remembered forever and a day as being the first man to officially break the 2 hour marathon mark.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? There was a lot of speculation that he was going to do Valencia. Is it Valencia?
Yeah. On his initial post, he put out hashtag Valencia Marathon. So maybe that was just a diversion.
What does this mean for the Olympics then? Like if he's racing in April, when's Olympics? July.
Yeah, he might be just letting the Olympics go and leaving that to Kipchoge, and then maybe he might back it up in September in Berlin.
Well, and maybe that's the strategy, because maybe he wants the world record and the under 2, and then Kipchoge Elliott gets his 3rd gold medal in a row, and they're both achieve what they've set out to do, and Elliott can then maybe retire. I don't know. So, but yeah, very interesting. A lot of politics in Kenyan athletics. Can I tell you? I'm in one of those groups which is just dominated by Kenyan supporters, and there is a lot of politics in Kenyan athletics, and there's a lot of talk that says that Elliott and Kelvin won't be picked in the same Olympic team. So I don't know what that means. Very interesting.
Yeah, I can see him lining up. He'll go and do Rotterdam, break the 2 hour world record, miss the Olympics, and then go to Berlin and take over Kipchoge's crown in Berlin, maybe. Or go back to Chicago where he's had success.
It might be the passing of the crown.
Yeah, but those guys go for the big money, which is a shame that he's not going to London. But he's obviously feeling he'll make the big money in endorsements and sponsorships and legacy.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. That's going to close off our new segment because now it's time that we can focus on our very special guest. Thanks for putting up with this, Kim, while we just do a little bit of rambling around. And thanks for
Kim's history.
It's actually written on the notes as Persia, and I just didn't read it.
Thank you for correcting him. So, Kim, we've met you a couple of times on Traveling Fit trips now with yourself and your husband, Stephen. You're recently in Chicago, where the Wanda age group championships were. Kim's run many races right around the world, and I believe you're like Sharon and I chasing your 6-star medal in Tokyo for next year. So no doubt right in the middle of training. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Over to you, Tim.
Oh, you want me to ask the first question? Okay, I'll ask the first question.
Okay, hit me.
We asked this. I'm just mucking around in the background for our listeners. I'm showing my Tokyo Marathon shirt off. So,
all right. Well, at least you've got one.
Yeah, well, we've got 2 actually. I did have 3, but I gave one away to Terry Frew, who didn't get one. So, but that's another story. We asked this question for all of our guests. So the opening question is, when did you first get into running, and why did you get into running, Kim?
Okay, so running was actually a progression for me. I've always played a lot of sport, but running wasn't one of the things that was high on my list of priorities. I did a lot of sports that involve running, like soccer and netball and hockey, but my transition into running really came through triathlon. So I started triathlons when I was about 35, and I started running, started doing more endurance events, which led to a little bit of the longer running. And by the time I was in my early 40s, I did my first marathon. I actually think I did my first Ironman before I did my first marathon. And to this day, I'll still say it's easier to run one at the end of an Ironman than it is to run one from the start to finish.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been running marathons now for 20 years. Tokyo will make marathon number 41 for me.
Wow.
Yeah. So, the 6 stars for me was not the original reason I was running these races. It's kind of just fallen into place for me over the last couple of years, given that New York for me was 2014. So that's 9 years ago. It's going to be nearly 10 years my making of the 6 stars. So, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, well, you need to come back next year and celebrate with us in New York.
Somebody else told me to go to New York, but then they were trying to talk me into going back to Boston the following year. So I think I might like to do that again. Yeah.
So, look, some of our listeners are not aware of the Abbott's World Major Marathon Wanda Age Group World Championships. Can you give us a bit of an insight as to what it actually is, Kim?
Okay, I myself wasn't really sure when I got this invitation. I had seen people before at races wearing this medal, and I seemed to think it was just someone who probably placed first, second, or third in their age category. And then someone was telling me about it when we were at the London ones, and I thought, oh yeah, I don't know, how do you become a part of that? Anyway, I had run a couple of races under 4 hours and one just on 4 hours last year. And I got this invitation to invite me to go to Chicago, where they were holding the World Age Group Champs. And they invite quite a lot of people. There is an automatic qualifying time, at least there is now, of 3 hours 48 for my age group. My age group is 60 to 64. So I haven't quite got to that stage yet. My fastest marathon ever was 3:51. I ran a 3:52 in Chicago, so I'm nudging it. So if you get within that range, or if they don't fill the amount of people, I believe they invite people who are becoming close to that time barrier to come and do the World Age Group Champs. I think they only started from about age 40. I think 40 to 44 might be the first age group that they work on. Yeah.
So you sort of almost accidentally fell into it, reading between the lines there, Kimmy.
I believe that's exactly what happened. It was no surprise. I looked at it. I already had my star in Chicago, and I looked at this and I went, when am I ever going to be invited to do something like that again?
Yeah.
So I'm going, so
it's all about the qualifying time. So
yes, every age group has a different qualifying time for the age group champs. I think it's kind of been a bit of a work in progress. So they may still be working on how many they're taking in each division. It was really difficult for me to even work out where I came in my division. I got my placing, but when I look at the results, it doesn't give me a placing in how many were in my age group. I have a feeling there were like maybe 600 or more in my age group, but I can't get down the page far enough to see. So it's a bit of a fault in the website there. They do it alphabetical. They don't do it from placing when you go into the age group category. So it took me a bit of a while to work out how many people were actually virtually in that age group. So I placed, I think, in the early 80s, which I was pretty happy with.
Extremely good.
So, yeah.
And
well done.
Qualifying races don't have to be the qualifying races don't have to be the majors, do they? They can be other events.
There's quite a large list of marathons that are qualifying races for the age groups, which is why I believe that Sydney can be put on place for holding the race as well.
Yeah, I've actually put Tim qualifying races in Oceania in the show notes a little bit later on, so we can share that with the listeners when we get to it.
Excellent. All right.
They also, if you're on that Abbott group, they sometimes put in where you can double up a marathon and get extra chances of getting in. So when I did Chicago, I actually could enter myself as doing another marathon and using Chicago. So I actually got to use it as 2 races.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they do it for that whole period from Berlin to New York. So anyone running Berlin, Chicago, and New York can double up. So
it's awesome.
Yeah,
So being invited to this, you get a special tent and stuff like that too, don't you? Like you get a nice little warm tent because it's cold outside, and you get to snuggle up into this nice warm tent before you run and do all the fun things.
That's correct. Yes, it was. It was. We were given a light breakfast. We were escorted to our corrals. We had our own gear drop there, and I wouldn't normally use a gear drop, but thinking that it's a smaller group there, it wasn't too small. There was probably 2,000 people in all the age groups that were in there, or maybe more. And so yeah, that was good, getting in there, being able to have a drink, something small to eat before the race, and then not worrying about trying to find your own corral. They would escort you down there. So yeah, that was good.
It's a bit like being royalty, isn't it?
It was. And it was really good on the way back too, because once you finished, they escorted you back into the tent. They gave you your medal. Here it is.
Oh,
cool.
Oh, wow.
That's it. And then they escort you in and they give you more food and massages if you feel like one. Yeah, so it's quite nice. Yeah. Special treatment. You feel like a VIP.
Yeah. So with the age group champs in Sydney in 2024, are you aiming to be there?
Look, it would be nice. As I said, I haven't run a qualifying time. I'm 4 minutes outside of that at the moment. Whether or not the races I've done this year will give me a entry, I don't know as yet. I'd be happy to do it if I got invited. I mean, it's would be good being in Sydney, not having to make another trip overseas. So,
yeah, it gets expensive, doesn't it?
It gets very expensive. Yeah,
it
certainly does.
So you've got 5 of the 6 stars. Tokyo is going to be your 6th. That's only just over 100 days away, according to the notes here. So it's not that far away. Have you put much thought into, firstly, Tokyo, but secondly, I guess the achievement in general, getting the 6th star?
Yeah, I'm not really quite sure how I feel about, how I'm going to feel about that. I'm really rebuilding at the moment after Chicago. I've had a couple of sicknesses and I've really gone back to scratch to sort of doing some harder, smaller running, some really long walking, just trying to really rebuild. I'm going to Disney World in January to do the Dopey Challenge. So at the moment, I'm just kind of trying to work on tired legs so that I can do that back-to-back running. The marathon there I'm going to treat as a fun day. So I'm going to take the 5, 10, especially at the 21. I'm going to do I'm probably going to have a really good hard hit out at the 21, and then just enjoy myself in the marathon and treat that as my training building up for Tokyo.
You say that now until you see all these characters and you're like, I've got to get a photo with Jack Sparrow, or I've got to get a photo with such and such, and you're like, there goes my 21 time. It's sorry.
No, I'll wait for the 42 for that.
Oh no, the different
why?
Sorry.
Different course.
Only because the queues are too long in those shorter races. You have to stand on a queue. In a marathon, if you've got a bit of distance, you go, there's only 2 people on that queue. I'll run over and get a photo with that one.
No, there's lines of, generally we found they're 5 to 10 minute long lines in most of them. So you're just running for fun in Dopey. It's a whole different experience.
I'm very jealous. If you want, I can take all the photos on your phone.
I have actually done it before.
You have done it before, so you're okay. You know what's going on.
Yes. I'm a bit competitive to not run that 21 hard. Competitive with myself. I want to do a good time in the 21. I know I'm running well over that distance. I break down a bit in that last 10 Ks at the moment. So Chicago, I was running really well. I would have been on time for under a sub 350, but had a bit of a hip issue towards the end. And I'm actually just really proud that I ran to the end, because there was a time when I thought I might just walk that last 7K. So, it's that always surprised what my head can make my body do.
As they always say, marathons are 95% mental and 5% crazy. No, 5% train obviously for them. But
what is it? It's a mental sport. You have to be mental to do it.
Absolutely. Especially when you can get in a car and actually drive that distance much faster and much easier. So, so what got you started on your 6-star journey?
So you did New York, and then why did
what made you keep going?
Okay, so I did New York. I actually had gone 2012 and it was cancelled by Hurricane Sandy. So our twins were doing the HSC the following year, so we put it off for 2 years. We did that one. Then I had a bit of an injury, which then led into a couple of years of Achilles issues. So my running really backed off. And then I got back into it by doing the Great Wall of China. I said to myself, I don't think I can run fast anymore, so I'm going to make it all about adventures, go and see the world. So I started by going to China, and I've done Petra Desert and Iceland, and then I had another series of injuries. I got frozen shoulder, and I have a balance problem. I had vestibular neuritis, which was a virus attacked the nerve in my ear. I still have balance problems. That put the swimming and the cycling out for good for me at the moment. And I started to really just concentrate a bit on getting out there, doing long walking and taking it into running. I'll steal the line from Shawshank Redemption. I said to myself, get busy living or get busy dying. And that was the kind of aim I took. So I became much more consistent in my running, and my running time improved. And I thought to myself, I'd really like to do Boston, but I'd really like to qualify. So I was running well at the beginning of last year, and I thought, you know what? I had some money owing to us from Travelling Fit, because we were going to do the race in the north of New Zealand when it first came out, and then it got cancelled for COVID. And I said to Stephen, you know what, I'm running pretty well. I think I'm going to do Berlin. They say that's a fast course. So I'm going to change my money over to Berlin. But this was in about January, and I thought, now I've got to stay fit and healthy until January. and I was turning 60 that April, but on the 20th of April, and I'd entered Canberra. It was early April, until I discovered that race actually still got me into the window for Boston. So I went, you know what? I'm going to go to Canberra and see if I can run my qualifying time then, and then I can enjoy Berlin. So I ran a 3:57 in Canberra. My qualifying time for Boston is 4:20, and over 20 minutes gets you automatically in. You don't have to wait for the buffering zone that they might have. And so I had entered Berlin and then realised that London was a week later. So I went, well, that would be silly not to do it. Boston was then, I got into Boston April after. So, my first two, I did 2012, I did Chicago in 2019, and I did bang, 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 3 really quickly, and now it's just Tokyo. So it's kind of fallen into my lap more than me going out looking for it. I first was concentrating on getting every state and territory in Australia. That was what I went and did. Yeah. And I've had my eye on all the 7 continents as well. So finishing with Antarctica when I win the lottery. It's an expensive race. I've still got Africa and South America to go as well.
Yeah, so. I'm almost scared to ask him, but what's been your favourite race?
Oh, if we're talking Abbott's races, I'm going to say New York, of course, and mostly that was the whole Central Park thing. I think personally, Chicago is beautiful. I thought that was a really beautiful city to run in. And Boston, of course, like it's just being there in Boston. What I loved most about Boston is I thought it was a really honest course. People talk too much about flat courses. They're not good for my body. It's like total RSI for me. I'm just using the same muscles. I'm just pounding on the concrete and I'm getting injured. So I much prefer to throw a few hills in there, and I really enjoyed that about Boston. If I look for a race outside of the Abbotts, I'm probably going to go with the Outback Marathon. In Northern Territory at Uluru, Yalara. That was a very special race. No music needed, no inspiration, because it was all there. You didn't need to draw on your own mental thoughts as much. I just loved everything about it. And Petra Desert was pretty special too. I mean, most races have something pretty good going. I wasn't a big lover of Melbourne. Sorry. That wasn't one of my favourites. Melbourne, not one of my favourites.
I'm not a fan of Melbourne, but
the best thing is finishing inside the MCG.
Yeah, but I feel like they usher you straight out of it again too. For me. Whereas when I did the one in Adelaide, we totally finished in Adelaide Oval, and that was really lovely. You did a loop around it and finished, but there wasn't the same amount of people, so it's a bit different.
We all have moments when things get tough and we need to find some motivation along the way. How do you motivate yourself when you're running in a race or when you're training to keep going, to keep getting to the end? What sort of tips do you recommend or do you use?
Well, Tara, I'm a big fan of the walking, but not in the race, in the training. If training gets tough, I don't have a problem with walking. I just think time on legs, no matter how I'm doing it, is pretty good. And I'm not a total kilometre junkie. I prefer to just be consistent with my training and, one longish run, a few short, faster ones. And if I don't get the long run in, I sometimes look at it this way. I can hurt for lots of weekends. I can just hurt on one day. Yeah. Sometimes I opt for just hurting on one day.
I'm with you.
And then I'm not real happy with myself.
100% with you on that one, Kim. It's you've got to just listen to that body. You're going to get through that marathon on the day. It's not your first one. You've just got to listen and do what's right for you. And time on legs is my motto as well. So 100%.
Time on legs and pickle juice.
Pickle juice.
Anything they want to hand me, I'm trying it. Seriously, I will try anything. But see, I guess the background for me is endurance stuff. So I know I'm pretty okay with the endurance stuff. It's just, is the body going to hold together? I play lots of little mind games. I split the race up into 6 lots of 7, and I throw away pretend scrunchies every 7Ks or all these other little mental games that I have. When I get to 37, having done a lot of triathlons, I say to myself, you've got off a bike at feeling like this and run and you've got off a bike feeling worse than this and had to run 5 kilometers. So that's what I kind of say to myself at 37, you can get through this. You want it to end now, but you can do it. So I pretty much just have those. I love that positive thinking that you have to yourself, that digging deep. I say to people, I know it sounds a bit corny, but I liken doing these races to grief. You don't know how strong you are until things get bad. Mm-hmm. And I like the self-talk. Sometimes I can't wait till the bad part starts. This is where I get to talk to myself. I like that person that I find when things.
And you do learn a lot about yourself in a marathon.
I certainly do.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that it's not just about running that race. It's about learning about you as a person and what you can handle and endure as well.
Yep, I couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm. So what's your plan after running Tokyo and Sydney, obviously, again, if that becomes one? What's your plans for, obviously you want to do your continents and your 7 states. Is that
I've done
all your
states
states?
And territories.
Oh, you've done all your states,
yeah, and it's supposed to include North and South Island of New Zealand. I've done South Island. Technically, I've done North Island at the end of an Ironman, but I'm not allowed to count that one. So I've had my eye on Hawke's Bay, maybe.
Oh, yes.
Over there and doing Hawke's Bay, but I haven't got any real long-term, nothing's kind of popped up just yet. They kind of just happened to me.
It sounds like
that looks good.
Yeah.
I think
it's almost
Athens might be there.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Athens might be there for you.
Yeah, I think you've planted a bit of a seed there.
It's like you've fallen into this thing called running journey all the way, and it's been a very positive experience. I might just share for the listeners some of the, I won't go through them all, but some of the age group results from Chicago.
My age group was unbelievable.
Yeah, so in the female, I'll start with I'll do the youngest age group and then the oldest age group for both female and male, and I'll also cover off Kim's category. So female 45 to 49 was won by a lady from Japan, Mai Fujisawa, and she was at 2:41. Oh my God.
Fujisawa.
Yeah, is that the way you say it?
Fujisawa, yep.
For the female 80 plus, so 80 plus, Mary J. Brinkman, she won that in 7 hours and 3 minutes. But interestingly, at 75 to 79 was Jeannie Rice from the USA, and she was 3:34. And I'm just going,
it's ridiculous.
It is.
She's amazing.
She's an amazing athlete.
Yeah, in Kim's age group, Jenny Hitchens from USA, 2:49, Kimmy. So
how can you compete against that? I believe she was something like 5th overall as well.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Big shout out there also in the 55 to 59, Tony. It's an Australian lady, Jill Wilkie, ran 2:57 and won her age category. So
So sorry, what time did she do?
2 hours 57.
Yeah, that equals what I think Krishna Stanton did in London last year but this Julie Hitchings beat that time in London this year. She did something like 2:45 in London.
Wow.
And so that was breaking the record for the 55 to 59, but it wasn't in the age group champs. Yeah.
And then when you look at the males in the 40 to 44 category, the winner was Cesar Lozano Cedino from CRC.
Czech Republic, maybe?
Yeah, Czech Republic. Yeah, 2:24.05. And then 80 plus. So this is something for all of us to look forward to. Myung Jun Kim from the USA, and he did it in 4:21 and 34 seconds. So
crazy.
It's
fantastic to do that now.
Fantastic athletes, and Kim, to be invited to compete with them is just something you should be very, very proud of, because they are pretty quick times. So
yeah, they certainly are.
Now, some of the qualifying races in Oceania, so you don't have to travel too far to actually post a qualifying time. Kim mentioned the Canberra Marathon Festival. That's part of it. The front runner Christchurch Marathon in New Zealand, the Rotorua Marathon in New Zealand, the Brisbane Marathon, the Rottnest Running Festival is part of it. The Wellington Marathon's part of it. You can qualify in Cairns, Townsville, and the Sunshine Coast is part of it. Sydney Marathon, of course, is part of it. Perth Marathon, Auckland, and the Pack and Save.
Come on.
Wanganui.
Yeah, isn't it?
No, it's Wanganui.
Isn't the WH pronounced like an F?
Okay. No, that one is Wanganui.
Wanganui Three Bridges Marathon in New Zealand. So you get a real mix of opportunities to qualify right here in Australia and New Zealand. So
I think you've just given us about another 12 different bucket list marathons to run there, Tony. The New Zealand ones are good. The Auckland one, is that on that list? I thought I saw Auckland on there.
Yeah, Auckland's on there.
Yeah, ASB Auckland. So that's on this weekend, or was it last weekend?
It was last weekend.
Last weekend, I think.
There's one for you, Kim. I highly recommend that one.
Yeah.
Which one?
The Auckland Marathon.
Oh, okay.
Highly recommend that one. You run over the Harbour Bridge. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that Breaking Sun or the First Light one, that was going to be my North Island. For
Gisborne, yeah. We're going to do that one, Kimmy. So Sharon and I, Sharon's always wanted to do it.
Yeah. It was
so
going to
we'll
be
do
the
that.
first one, the one that we entered when we entered it.
Oh,
the
truly?
first time they were running it, yeah. So they've done it a couple of times since then now.
That would have been pretty special. So
yeah. Oh,
so,
well, I got to Berlin instead.
Yeah, well, twist the old arm.
Which also included the Bordeaux one as well. So
yeah, you did 3 in 3 weeks, didn't you, or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you in London, and I'm just like, I was in awe of you in London.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my goodness, how many marathons can these people run in one year?
I was in the Hurt Locker in London, but I actually ran. That was the fastest one. I ran out the 3 of them. But yeah,
you're too drunk at the dock.
I've actually said I'd love to go back and run London a lot slower and really take it in, because I looked at all your photos and I'm like, oh wow, I really just don't remember all that. It all hurt too much.
Maybe you're still recovering from the hangover from Medoc.
I may have been.
It's all right, Kim. It's got nothing to do with pace. I look at a lot of Tim's photos as well and think, did I run through that? So yeah. So Kim, at the end of the interview, it's now customary for me to do the fast 6. So I'm going to give you 6 very quick questions, and we look for 6 very quick answers. So are you ready?
Oh, I suppose I have to be.
Yeah. Well, you do. So podcast. Okay, podcast or music?
Oh, music.
Best running advice ever given to you?
Oh, be consistent.
What advice would you give to someone starting out?
Don't go out too hard.
Uphill or downhill?
Uphill.
Gels or blocks?
Gels.
And your favorite shoes to run in?
Nike.
Oh.
Always. I can order a pair of Nike and they'll always fit.
The super shoe or just the normal running shoes?
Both of them. The Vapor Flies for racing.
Yeah.
And I just use like a Pegasus one for walking and other running, slower running. Yeah.
You must have nice narrow feet.
No, I don't. I have broad feet. Actually.
Oh, and they fit you. Okay.
I just have a bigger size. I just take a size bigger in running shoes, and I can always order the size, and whatever shoe it is, it always fits.
Nice work.
Yeah.
That's nice. Kim, you were very nervous before we went on air. I hope those nerves have disappeared, because you've been an absolutely fantastic guest, and you've given us amazing insights. And I'm sure that maybe there's some listeners out there that you might have whetted their appetite into getting into that World Age Group Championships, and there may be 1 or 2 new goals set. So thank you so much for joining us, Kim. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. Till next time.
Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah.
All right then.
All right, so don't run away. We'll just wind her up. And of course, we've got it's that time of the week where Tim forgets what fits on an Instagram post. So, Tim, what's your tip this week?
Short tips.
My tip this week is about running different paces for a better outcome in your running. So running at the one pace all the time and constantly won't lead to better results necessarily on the training track. So mixing up speeds will build up strength and endurance, and that all helps later on when you're doing the longer distances like you might get when you're doing a marathon. So it also can reduce some of the boredom you get when you're running the same pace over and over and over again if you mix it up and run at different paces. Some examples of running at those different paces can be just doing a series of sprints instead of going for one 5K run. Just do 5 1K sprints or 100-meter sprints broken up over a longer distance. Fartleks is another example where during a long run, you might then do, a couple of 100 meters at a faster pace and then back it off and then do another couple of 100 meters at a faster pace. Or you could just focus on one training session each week of just going faster, whether it's at parkrun, trying to improve your 5K parkrun time every week, or whether it's getting on the treadmill and running out, faster and faster distances or pace on the treadmill over a period of time. That's something that Tara and I do to break up the boredom. During our midweek sessions, we try to get a faster run in on the treadmills. And for us, even on our long runs, we try to break it up, particularly at the end of a long run. We try to do a faster run. We're fortunate we've got like a 350-meter run straight down a jetty. We turn around at one end, and there's 350 meters at the end of the jetty to the finish line on our long runs. And we'll quite often sprint that out and push it out. And it helps with that endurance, helps with the strength in the legs. Allows you to think that you've got more than what you think you've got in your system. So that's my tip this week, is to try and build something different into your running rather than just running at the same pace over and over and over again.
Yeah. And I think that was backed up with what Kim was saying in relation to flat decks and flat decks as in flat roads and flat courses. Mixing it up is always going to increase different muscles, and you'll get better results.
Works the muscles differently and builds up the strength a little bit differently in those muscles, and as I said, builds up that endurance as well, which is what ultimately you're looking for in a marathon.
Tim, thanks for that. I'll squeeze that into an Instagram post. No dramas. So.
I've got it there in a few dot points for you.
And just for our listeners, we do put out Tim's tips on a Tuesday on our Instagram account. So if you do want to rehash in a very shortened format, it's available to you on Tuesday. Tim, thanks again. What's happening next week? I think you're our host for next week.
Yeah, I am. But I'm going to get Tara to do it because I've spoken too much tonight.
Okay.
Thanks, Tim and Tony. And Kim, so we all know things are starting to get hot here in summer as summer starts to catch up with us. We're also finding that there are less and less races on, and it's a long time between now and when the next races start. So next week we're going to talk all about running in the heat and training through summer. I reckon this one will be a sizzling episode. Now, I did not make up that joke. That is Tim's dad joke. Please do not blame me for that.
I was able to get the joke back in.
Yeah, here I was thinking we got rid of Tim's joke, except it was much better delivered by Tara, by the way. So thank you, Tara.
He's probably given it to me so that he doesn't cop the flack for that one.
And just before we end, just recapping, we had Joel Everington on the other day from Indigenous Marathon Runners, confirming he did run New York and confirming he went sub 4 hours. I'm not going to give his time away, but we haven't had any real. He's reached out and made some comments on a few posts that I've seen. It looks like he's very happy. The photos look like he's very happy when he's got his medal. And it's so good to see. And I think all the Indigenous marathon participants all finished and crossed the line in the end as well. So
congratulations to the team. Yeah,
really happy for them.
Very much so. Thanks, everyone. This ends our show for tonight. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Flying Runner podcast. If you did enjoy the episode, please like and subscribe wherever you listened or watch this episode. Video of the episodes available on Spotify and YouTube, and audio is on Apple, Amazon, and Google, and just about every podcast platform out there. As I mentioned, we're also on Instagram and Facebook. So if you haven't already, please follow us, because we're improving our social media game. So remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks again, Kim. Until then,
Thank you.
happy running.
Happy running.
Happy running.